No one ever tells you the brutal truth about what really happens to a woman after she leaves her marriage. There's a chasm between the story sold on social media and the quiet reality she faces when she closes the door behind her. What begins as a promise of freedom soon reveals layers of pain, doubt, and unseen consequences. Behind every courageous decision lies a heavy psychological price, rarely exposed. If you believe she only found happiness, you might need to look beyond appearances. She believes she's escaping mediocrity in search of freedom, trading routine for the unknown, boredom for the promise of adventure, and the security of everyday life for the abstract idea of happiness. In her mind, leaving her marriage is stepping through a portal to a more vibrant life, where she'll finally be the protagonist of her own story. But this exchange rarely delivers on its promise. How many times have you fooled yourself into thinking the grass was greener on the other side? Illusion is always more seductive than reality. What truly awaits on the other side isn't liberation, but a psychological minefield that gradually dismantles every fantasy she created. Each step outside her marriage reveals internal obstacles, long-held insecurities, and painful silences. The freedom she was sold becomes a demand, and the initial euphoria turns into a lonely battle. In the end, the truth is harsh. Escaping the familiar may be only the beginning of an emotional labyrinth. At first, there's a personal ecstasy, a self-centered honeymoon, a new apartment, a fresh hairstyle, transformation selfies, and motivational captions flood social media. Every detail becomes a symbol of rebirth, as if she's finally living the life she always dreamed of. On the surface, everything looks perfect, filled with virtual applause and instant approval. But that celebration is just the skin of a much more complex process. Friends cheer and applaud her every step. Social media convinces her she's unstoppable, celebrating her courage as an almost heroic feat. She buys into that narrative, repeating to herself, "Now I'm living for me." External approval fuels this phase, giving the illusion of victory. But is that validation real, or just a hollow echo of what she wishes she felt? For a while, the feeling works. The enthusiasm seems genuine, as if she's finally experiencing what she always wanted. Compliments, likes, and new friendships arrive in waves. She decorates her space, joins a gym, downloads dating apps, and samples everything she once believed marriage restricted. Each new development is treated as an achievement, but this stream of stimuli doesn't fill the growing void inside. Every morning she congratulates herself for being strong, mentally repeating her self-improvement script. She posts, "I found myself again," and gathers likes, as if that confirms progress. Outside, she exudes confidence, but something silent is already simmering within her. Digital applause doesn't reach the growing emptiness, and satisfaction that seemed guaranteed turns artificial. Behind the smile, a discomfort is hard to ignore. Here's what those captions never reveal. The attention that's abundant today eventually disappears. The fresh start that felt liberating becomes another routine, empty, lackluster, as ordinary as the one she fled. The initial enthusiasm fades, praise grows scarce, silence expands. The cycle repeats, only now without the old framework to hold it up. At this stage, reality exacts the price of the dream. Loneliness creeps in, discreet at first, like a shadow she tries to ignore. Soon comparison arrives. Each quiet moment becomes a stage for memories of the relationship she left. The past, once rejected, begins to haunt her thoughts. Even if she won't admit it, she misses what she left. And each new experience reveals how much the emptiness has deepened. In that silence, doubts grow. Behind every empowered woman post-divorce glow-up is a hidden breakdown, a swirl of self-criticism, insecurity, and regret that no one sees or comments on. Images of strength serve as armor, but they don't protect against the torment that grows daily. No one prepared her for the weight of these emotions because the public narrative ignores private suffering. This emptiness is as real as it is invisible, gnawing from within while the world applauds. The pattern is so predictable it's almost mathematical. The first stage is a honeymoon with oneself, euphoria, self-celebration, and a sense of freedom. She feels invincible, as if starring in a personal revolution. Every choice is celebrated, every change is a victory. But the illusion of absolute control soon shows its first cracks. This phase can last weeks, maybe months, fueled by intoxicating excitement about her decision. She feels brave, applauding each step as if she were different from most. Yet behind the pride, a quiet anxiety grows. Courage without peace becomes escape disguised as victory. She tries new things, meets men who never crossed her path, and receives compliments that seem to confirm she chose well. Every message or glance validates the fresh start story and feeds a wounded ego. But does external approval really fill the void? The risk is confusing applause with belonging. In truth, she isn't living reality. She's living a story she tells herself about freedom and rebirth. Each step feels authentic, but it rests on an idealized narrative crafted to justify leaving. She convinces herself she's in control while ignoring signs that much of what she feels is illusion. The quest for independence becomes internal theater, a script masking real pain. Quantity is mistaken for quality. The new feels valuable, even without substance. In her eagerness to fill the void, she stacks superficial experiences, believing that equals growth. The first crack appears where least expected. In a banal moment, a flat conversation, an awkward silence. Fantasy loses power. Reality takes hold. Not everything that glitters is gold. Then comes phase 2, awakening. It starts slowly. A bad date, a frustrating talk, a night ending in emptiness. Minor disappointments accumulate, eroding the illusion of boundless freedom. The glow of novelty fades and the world outside marriage offers no guarantees. Fantasy slips. Loneliness becomes undeniable. Men seem perfect on paper, but in practice, none truly care who she is. To them, she's a Friday pastime, another face in a crowd. The charm of new connections reveals its superficiality, and she feels replaceable. The attention that once felt like a win now rings hollow. She begins to feel the difference between being desired and being valued. The first real crack is silence. No one asks about her fears, quirks, or the details that once made her feel seen. New relationships are shallow, leaving no space for intimacy. Missing are sincere conversations, attentive glances, the sense of being known beyond the surface. Emotional anonymity weighs more than she admits. Still, she persists, multiplying encounters, seeking validation, doing anything to dodge mounting doubts. The cycle intensifies. Each interaction distracts time but not emptiness. Instead of reflecting, she accelerates, trying to smother the unease. It doesn't solve the problem. It only masks it. Escape becomes routine. Peace remains elusive. The attention now feels automatic. Compliments lose their effect. What once fed her ego starts to feel rote. Slowly she compares every man to you. The gestures, mannerisms, even the flaws. Nothing fills the space left by what was familiar. Silent comparison deepens the void, making loss impossible to ignore. On the surface you were the problem. She repeats that as truth. But her subconscious compares each new man to the comfort, security, and stability only you offered. The more she denies it, the more each encounter highlights what was lost. Reason and emotion clash, and doubt erodes her narrative. Seemingly charming men reveal flaws, selfishness, emotional distance, broken promises. Sparks fade under shallow attitudes and inconsistency. The fresh start becomes a string of small disappointments, each one reinforcing the memory of what she lost. She learns that superficial charm never replaces character. The man she left, never perfect, just familiar, known in every detail. You were the safe harbor, the quiet reference to home, even on hard days. The new may excite, but it doesn't offer the comfort of what was lived and shared. In the silent comparison, you represent what she can't find, belonging and roots. Deep down, you were home, and now only the unknown remains. Phase 3, panic. The mask of happiness, once easy to maintain, grows heavier each day. Pretending devours energy and leads to exhaustion. Smiles become disguises. Cheerful posts become reminders of what's missing. Anxiety grows, turning each display of strength into a painful act of resistance. Reality collects its debt. Friends tire of the same stories. Patience wanes. If there are children, they show the impact, making the environment more fragile. She, exhausted from pretending, spends her days keeping up the facade. Loneliness intensifies as support fades, and the burden of control becomes unbearable. Feigned happiness consumes more than real pain. Every "living my best life" post becomes performance, a desperate attempt to convince others and herself that she's okay. The gap between what she shows and what she feels widens into a chasm. Performance becomes routine. Authenticity disappears. She realizes she's living for others' expectations, not her truth. When applause fades, only emptiness remains. Some women go almost manic, chasing experiences, attention, any distraction to numb discomfort. Parties, impulsive trips, shallow relationships, anything to avoid facing the void. The search for stimulation is just escape from internal pain. Haste reveals desperation, not freedom. The result is more fatigue, less meaning. Others withdraw, shutting out the world, diving into old photos and endless scrolling. The past becomes refuge. The present feels too heavy. Between memories and screens, they look for comfort and find only deeper loneliness. Isolation hardens into habit. Each day repeats. Silent escape hurts as much as exposed despair, only quieter. A silent pattern runs through these paths. She rewrites the story of her marriage. Bit by bit, she wonders whether it was really that bad. Perhaps you weren't the problem after all. Negative memories fade. Positive details resurface, bending the original narrative. It's an attempt to ease regret. Admitting she was wrong, however, demands courage few can summon. She can't admit the mistake because her identity rests on being brave enough to leave. Accepting error would dismantle the story that sustains her and force a deeper pain. Recognizing that pride led to isolation, the pressure to maintain a strong, independent posture becomes a prison. The mask of courage blocks learning. Self-sabotage continues in silence. So she crafts a new story. Maybe she changed. Maybe different circumstances would have worked. Reinterpretation eases pain without cracking her identity. By projecting hope into a different past or future, she dodges the present as it is. It's a cycle of escape, not healing. Meanwhile, the dating world proves cruel. She meets men seeking only fleeting fun. Others are emotionally unavailable, manipulative, or scarred. Few offer anything genuine. Most don't want commitment. Each disappointment reminds her that life outside marriage is less welcoming than it looked. The market is cold and unforgiving. The emotional toll climbs. She no longer competes on equal terms. She carries baggage and unresolved stories, and it shows. The market rewards the new and the superficial, leaving little room for deep scars. The reality hits hard and shows how brutal starting over can be, especially without the support she once had. App validation is a mirage. It deceives but doesn't fulfill. Dozens of matches, shallow chats, empty promises. Notifications seem promising. Almost no one stays. The cycle repeats. Brief interest, quiet disappointment. Options don't replace connection. The emptiness grows as hope fades. A harsh truth emerges. The value she believed she held no longer carries in that impersonal universe. She's just another profile among thousands, suddenly invisible. The sense of being special dissolves into anonymity and disposability. The shock confronts her self-esteem head-on. An ego once inflated now battles the indifference of digital oblivion. Reckoning arrives. Maybe after a year, maybe longer, but it's inevitable. No matter how long she keeps up appearances or distractions, reality knocks. When it does, it's silent and devastating. Loneliness stops being temporary and becomes a state. The promises that filled the space are gone. Running is no longer an option. She must face herself. Loneliness shifts from the absence of someone to an existential void. She sees she tore up the fabric of her life for a fantasy that never really existed. The loss isn't just a person, it's purpose, meaning, identity. Every silence reminds her the stakes were too high for so little return. The pain is existential. No distraction fills it. The Sunday night syndrome arrives without warning. When distractions end and silence takes over, truth surfaces. No parties, friends, or notifications to mask emptiness. She feels the total absence of company and purpose. In that moment, she realizes she is truly alone, with no one to share the small joys or pains of daily life. The echo of that loneliness is the price of her choice. By now, you've begun healing, rebuilding, learning, growing stronger. Meanwhile, she reaches peak regret, looking back at all she lost while you moved forward. The contrast is stark. One rises, the other sinks into what could have been. Reality's hardest blow is the reversal of trajectories. You become the man she said she wanted, mature, confident, at peace. The irony is cruel that growth, forged in silence and scars, comes after separation. When she sees the value of what she lost, it's too late. Time doesn't return. Opportunities rarely reappear. All that remains is regret for not recognizing potential when there was time. Her social circle shrinks. Friends drift. Contact thins. Conversations fade. Married friends see her as a threat and keep their distance. Single friends stop being supportive and become competitors in a ruthless game. Belonging dissolves, leaving isolation and the sting of exclusion. Invitations disappear. Support fades. Loneliness settles in. She realizes, with regret, that you were not just a husband but the foundation of her life. Small routines, advice, even arguments. Those were emotional supports. Without you, her daily axis is gone and stability crumbles. Only then does she grasp the weight and value of what was lost. Too late to rebuild from scratch. Ghost relationship syndrome sets in. She wants to tell you news, hears your voice in her thoughts, feels your absence in the smallest details. Her routine carries echoes of the past. Every automatic gesture reveals the space you still occupy. Even at a distance, your psychological presence persists. It's a silent mourning with no end in sight. These aren't just memories. They're anchors pulling her back to all that's gone. Each memory becomes an attachment, making it hard to let go and keeping the past more present than she admits. No matter how she tries to move on, these anchors hold her to what was, blocking a true new beginning. The weight of loss becomes impossible to ignore. It gets worse. The chances of finding a high-quality partner narrow. Time passes. She's older, maybe with children. Standards remain. The market is unforgiving of heavier baggage. Few invest where so much is demanded. Expectations collide with reality. The search grows frustrating. Scarcity hardens, hope wanes. She lowers her standards and tells herself she's being open-minded. She accepts what she once wouldn't, simply to avoid loneliness or admitting how hard starting over is. Small disrespect slips by. Expectations drop. What was unacceptable becomes routine. The emotional cost is high and quiet. She tries to reinvent herself. New look, new hobbies, new friends. Chasing a better version as if that could fix the emptiness. It's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Surface shifts amidst an inner sinking. None of it changes the essence or fills the void. The performance of renewal masks the desperation of someone sinking inside. Some dive into rebound relationships, desperate to recreate the comfort and security they destroyed. Immediate companionship fills the gap for a moment, but rushing deepens old wounds. These bonds rarely last. They implode under unrealistic expectations and thin foundations. The scars grow deeper. Regret and loneliness cycle on. Sought relief becomes renewed pain. Amid all this, you become the ghost haunting every new connection. Not just as a memory, but as an unattainable reference. You turn into the idealized ex. Your flaws softened. Your virtues magnified by longing and regret. No new man competes with the version of you crafted by memory. The past becomes an impossible standard. No one can win against an idealized ghost. The past, rewritten by longing and guilt, turns you into something no one can surpass. Each new candidate is measured against an unreachable bar and falls short. The present lives in the shadow of a perfection that never truly existed. Years pass. The psychological torture deepens. She faces a choice: admit her mistake and try to repair the damage, or cling to pride, growing bitter, cynical, a quiet warning to others. Few find the courage to face the past honestly and pursue reconciliation. Most wall themselves in pain. Time doesn't heal. It crystallizes wounds and feeds dissatisfaction. Most persist in the script because facing regret hurts more than the facade. Pride feels safer than admitting failure and reevaluating choices. They feed a self-defense narrative, even if it means staying trapped in suffering. Acknowledging error requires humility and strength, rare under the weight of wounded pride. Denial sustains silent dissatisfaction. The rare few who attempt reconciliation rebuild from ashes, knowing they burned the bridge. It isn't easy. It demands humility, courage, and the will to face shame and judgment. Reconciling means admitting weakness and handling deep scars, internal and external. Rebuilding requires more than will, it requires rebirth. Not everyone can bear it. Her entire sense of identity must be rebuilt from scratch. Every routine, habit, and small decision becomes a reminder of loneliness. What was shared is now lived in silence. Emptiness seeps into daily details. Reinvention is painful, demanding an emotional strength many underestimate. The weight of solitude presses on every choice. Financial reality sets in. Divorce is expensive, and independence isn't freedom when resources are scarce. Bills once shared now pile up. Autonomy's promise collides with the cost of maintaining a lifestyle and absorbing surprises. The idealized freedom proves limited by economics. Without stability, independence loses its shine and exacts its toll. She misses the small gestures, the hand at her lower back, the laughter over trivial things, the presence that soothed without words. No distraction changes the ache. The absence of those details weighs on every day. Human touch, once trivialized, becomes a painful necessity, hard to replace. The void of touch is an invisible wound. Dating apps become torture. She feels invisible in a market that worships youth and appearance. Every swipe past, every silence reinforces rejection and inadequacy. An ego once inflated by likes now meets the cold indifference of competition. The environment is ruthless and superficial, quickly discarding those who don't fit the mold. The emotional toll mounts. The deepest pain, watching you move on, rebuilding your life and finding happiness with someone who values what she squandered. Each achievement sharpens her regret as she realizes what she took for granted now belongs to someone else. What was home becomes a distant memory. What was lost can't be reclaimed. True suffering is seeing, helplessly, the value of what she destroyed bloom in another's hands. This is the outcome. Regret without redemption, conscience without action, and the cruel weight of knowing she gave up everything for nothing. There's no comfort in recognizing the value of what was lost too late. No relief in learning the trade was illusory. The void can't be filled with new experiences or justifications. Only the silent pain of realizing, too late, the irreversible price of her choices remains. The lesson endures. There is no going back. If you recognize yourself in this story, or know someone in this quiet collapse, share this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It isn't about bitterness. It's about seeing beyond fantasy, appreciating what you have now, and understanding the real price of trading certainties for illusions. Like the video to reinforce the message, and turn on notifications so you don't miss content that challenges conventional wisdom. Your participation makes a difference on this journey.